Hey, all you lip rippers out there, welcome back to the channel, Lip Rippin' with Mo. Today we're going to talk about my favorite technique to catch these monster bass, and that's just using the jig. The jig is the most versatile bait out there that I'm aware of. I can catch them all year long on that thing. Today we're going to discuss colors, weight, when and where to use them, how to use them, rod and reel setup that I use, the jig manufacturers that I use. All right, for me, it's real simple. I try to keep my jig fishing as simple as I can make it. I have three types of jigs: swim jigs, finesse jigs, and then anything other such as a flipping jig, football jig, whatever you wish to structure jig. I mean, there's so many names for them out there. Long story short, if I'm going to do a swim jig, I keep them in a swim jig box. My finesse jigs are in a smaller box. These are also known as spider jigs. You'll often hear me call them a spider jig. And then last but not least, I have all my bigger normal non-finesse jigs in a box like this right here. And I have them separated by how heavy they are. 3/8 ounce on top. I got 2 rows, have ½ ounce, and then 3/4 to 1 ounce or heavier on this here bottom row. Now for colors, I like to keep it real simple when it comes down to my jig fishing. So as you can see here, I have black and blue, several different colors of black and blue down in here. I also even have black and chartreuse. I even have some black and chartreuse and orange down in here. And then I have black and brown. Some folks call that a Texas crawl, but to me it's still black majority of the time, and that's where those go. So greens, green pumpkins, green pumpkin orange or red, along with what's called Mexican heather here, which is a green pumpkin slash watermelon slash purple. That's about the only jig colors that I use. And here's that black and chartreuse Texas crawl, or Missouri crawl, some people call it. Other than that, I keep it real simple. I even throw a little bit of peanut butter and jelly in there every once in a while, but that's when I'm really going deep for the most part. You can see again down here on my big heavy jigs, it's green pumpkin orange, a little bit of black and blue mixed in right there, and again over here with some green pumpkin and blue as it sits right there. So I only use those colors no matter what the time of the year. Same thing over here with my finesse box. As you can see, I have green pumpkin orange, and then I put a green pumpkin trailer on there. That trailer right there we'll get to here in a minute on what that is, but that looks real lifelike from a coloring point of view here on the East Texas lakes. And then over here on the swim jigs, I keep it real simple on my swim jigs. White and chartreuse, a little bit of perch, a little bit of black and blue, and again I do these in a weight distribution from the lightest down here to the heaviest. People ask, hey, which jig brand do you use? Why do you use them? I'm just going to go over a couple of them right now because to me, these manufacturers, they all about the same. The only thing that's really different is the type of hook that you want, the skirting and the skirting material, but most of it's silicone skirting. Most of them are lead heads, even though you can find some with tungsten, but I like a strong, sturdy hook. So here at the Sandtone jig, I mainly use the Sandtone jigs when I'm going deep. When I say I'm going deep, I'm talking 20 foot of water deep. This is where I'll use a 3/4 ounce to a 1 ounce jig, typically Mexican heather, peas and carrots, or black and blue type of color. And what determines that is the time of the year. How bright is the sun? What I mean by that is on a cloudy day on Lake Fork, it's just hard to beat black and blue. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. It's black and blue all day long if the sky has clouds in it. Now, if it's bright and sunny, that's when I'm going to turn into my greens, green pumpkins, or some peas and carrots, which is basically green pumpkin, orange / red, whatever you wish to call that. It's more of an orangey color, but you do that and you go out deep and you start yo-yoing that jig. They're going to hit it every time you yo-yo it up and it starts falling back down. And I'll go over what yo-yoing means here in just a second. When I'm flipping docks, which you find on Cedar Creek, Lake Palestine, Lake Tyler, basically any lake with docks, Lake Waxahachie, I'm going to the missile jigs, flip out jig, and even the mini flip jig, down to a spider finesse style jig. I like the smaller presentation around a dock. The rate of fall is what determines how heavy of a jig I'm going to use and the type of trailer that I'm going to use. And we'll go over that here in just a minute too. But I generally keep my dock fishing at a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce. As you can see right there, 3/8 ounce. And then if I really think I need to go heavier or faster fall, then I'll go up to a 1/2 ounce. But sometimes it's just as simple as changing the trailer on your jig. And 3/8 ounce, whether it's the flip out jig here or the mini flip out jig from Missile Baits, I catch them on both. And this one has a little bit more skirting to it. It's a little bit more bulky, and therefore your rate of fall is going to be a little bit slower. So I want to use the same weight with the same trailer. I use this, and therefore it falls a little faster. So you get a different presentation, and most of these fish will hit the jig on the fall. It's rare that I will flip a jig under a dock and I'll do nothing more than shake, 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 pick it up, next post, next corner. I'm trying to hit as many posts or fittings, a ladder, some tires, obviously any brush that's tied around it. I'm trying to flip in there as many times as I can to get the most effective time out of fishing for the day. And to me, that just helps me concentrate on what I'm doing. And if they haven't hit it on the fall, shake, 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 pick it up, do it again. That's typically how I'm fishing the dock. Typically how I'm flipping a jig into cover, whether it's cattails, stumps, just whatever. The only time I really take my time is when I'm fishing deep, middle of summer, early fall, early into winter. And we'll go over that here in just a minute also. Now my setup I like to use is the Denali Rods N3 series. What this is a medium heavy rod with 15-pound fluorocarbon. Okay. And this rod, as you can see, is a 7.4, medium heavy, 10 to 17 pound, 1/4 to 3/4 ounce. This rod serves me just fine and dandy, and I got a Daiwa to Tula 8-to-1 gear ratio on there. Gear ratio doesn't really matter. I can crank this thing just as good as anything else because most of the time I'm just going to horse them out, and the rod is doing all the work for you. Real speed ain't gonna do a whole lot of work for you when you're trying to get them out of that cover. You got to have a good stiff rod to do that with. And this Denali, it's extra light, it's really sensitive, it's got good grips on it, and it's just well balanced, and it's got plenty of eyes. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 eyes on this rod, and they go down to the micro eyes. And to me, that just lets you have enough power to set that hook, rip their lips, and horse them out of a dock, out of a brush pile, out of cattails, any structure that you're flipping a jig off into. That rod right there is the rod. Note, I'm not sponsored by Denali. I don't get paid by Denali to say these nice things about the rods. I just believe in their products. That's why I use them, along with that Daiwa Tula. Yeah, there is other reels out there, but to me, flipping that out of that Daiwa Tatula with that wider line release right here on the front. It's less friction, so I don't have to worry about the reel or the eyelet slowing me down. This thing just opens up, and you got all of that just letting your line free flow right out of there. So I'm a big fan of these Daiwa Tatula rods just for that, reels, just for that reason. And again, they got plenty of backbone, super sensitive, and you know, they're really light, and I like them. Now, when you're fishing deep, which I like to do on Lake Fork, daylights, nighttime, whatever, you got to have the heavy jig. As I was demonstrating earlier, you're going to want that 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce, 1 1/4 ounce weight. And what I do is I make my own most of the time. It saves me some money from that point of view. You go buy a 1 ounce jig, and some of them are up to $6 and $7 for a jig. So what I do is I make my own. I order these jig heads. They're pre-made, they're painted, they come with a hook and a weed guard, and you can get 3 of these. Actually, this pack's 4 for like $3. So take an example, this one here. These are all Boss head jig heads, and you go to fishingskirts.com and order these, and all you gotta do is put a skirt and a band on them, and that's the good thing about it. And you can do that with any color that you want. And you can use any jig head size that you want as well. So as an example right here, these jig heads right here, these are 1/2 ounce jig heads. 4 of these basically for $4. And then what I've done here is I bought a bag of bands, right? I like a red band. I don't know why, it's just a confidence thing. But let me show you my box of jig skirts. And so what you can do is create your own color jigs and enable the tabs, counts, however you want, customizing your own jig. As you can see, there's some pre-made skirts here, like these here, and then you can buy the tabs like here. So if I think I need a custom jig for whatever reason, I'm gonna come in here and make one. And I got the jig heads over here, put them on. Black jig head typically works, or a green pumpkin jig head typically works. And you know, I don't stray from that. There's no reason to. I don't think the fish are that picky when it comes to the head. So black, green pumpkin, make them yourself, save some money, and get the custom color that you're looking for. And if they don't have a skirt already made for you from Boss, like this right here is also orange and green pumpkin, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this here package, and I paid $2 for that. So by the time you break this down, slap it on a jig head that you bought already painted with a mustad hook, as an example, these have good mustad hooks in them. I've got a jig that I've made with a custom color for less than $2. And that's a hell of a lot cheaper than paying $5 and $6 and $7 for a jig when I'm just going to drag it on the bottom. And if I break it off, hey, I don't cry as much as I do if I lost a $7 jig. Now when I'm yo-yoing a jig, what I refer to is slinging that thing out there as far as you can to your target area. Say it's a nice ridge or something like that, or even a flat that's 20 foot deep. And I'm just gonna get my line tight. And when that thing hits the bottom and the line goes a little slack, I'm just gonna sit here and pop it up. Pop it up and just let it fall. It's just doing this right here. And those little legs are back there kicking on your jig trailer, and it's doing that. And if you watch any video of a mud bug or a crawdad, how they swim, that tail is doing this right here. It's gripping for them and it's pushing them up and down. And they glide. And that's literally all I want that jig to do. So when I'm yo-yoing that jig, I'm raising it up about a foot, 1.5 feet off the bottom, and it's just doing that. It's being very aggressive with it. And that's typically during the summertime, all the way through fall, maybe a little bit early winter, but the water's definitely over 65 degrees when I'm yo-yoing like that. But when that water gets a little colder, it gets down below 65, 60 degrees, I'm dragging. I'm dragging a black and blue jig with a big old beefy trailer on it, and I'm just dragging. Might shake it just a little bit, stop and pause just a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm dragging that dude. I'm not yo-yoing. Yo-yoing is for warmer water, dragging is for cooler water. That's just what gives me confidence. Hope it helps you out. So let's talk about jig trailers real quick. Again, I try to keep them real simple. I can use a Berkeley powered sugar crawl. I typically use the 4-inch on that, and if I want to put it on a finesse or a spider jig, I'm cutting off some of the body. There's no reason to buy the 3-inchers when I can just cut off an inch of the 4-inch and call it the same. Excite trailers, these raptor tails, they float. They have a different kind of scent to them, but at the end of the day, when you get to the bottom, sometimes those trailers will stand up because it is made out of softer plastic. It doesn't have as much salt in it, and those pinchers will stand up, giving it a more defensive posture. But I'm typically doing that during the summertime. Again, when I'm yo-yoing, I want that thing to sit there and say, oh no, and let me fly it, and hop it off. Yo-yo that thing out of there and keep doing that. That's when I'm using those X-sights for the most part. A lot of people, including myself, use the Strike King Rage Crawl or Strike King Menace. I'll use the Menace once again if I need a finesse, such as that, or a spider jig. I'll cut about 4 little ribbons off of this bad boy. I don't buy the Menace, the baby Menaces. I buy the 4-inch Menace. And again, I'll just bite off or cut off, 4 or 5 little riblets there, and let that thing kick all the way down. Shake, 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 pick it up, flip it, and do it again. Same thing with a Rage Crawl. If I think I need a bulky presentation on this 3/4 ounce jig, that's what I'm using. I'm trying to slow the rate of fall, but I also want to give a big, beefy, high protein image down there. So if I'm fishing beside bridge columns, once again on Lake Fork as an example, I'm going to throw this thing past a bridge column, but I'm going to drag it right by it and let that thing just kick. That's what I have confidence in. I've caught a ton of big fish doing that, but again, it's just a different presentation, and it works for me. Hope it works for you. So here's what a finished finesse jig, spider jig, looks like for me. Okay, this is a small round-headed jig, 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, sometimes up to a 5/8, but typically no more than a 3/8 ounce. Anything bigger than that, I'm going to go with a bigger jig. And again, you can see a Menace right there as a trailer, and those things are just flapping. This is Mexican Heather, made by Santone. Again, not sponsored by them, not paid by them, but again, it's a bait that I have a lot of confidence in when I'm fishing Lake Palestine, Cedar Creek, Eagle Mountain Lake, and the list goes on and on and on. When I think I need a finesse jig, this is what I'm throwing. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I've got 5 of these rods. All 5 of these rods from Denali have jigs on them. I don't put anything else on, no Texas rig, nothing. They're finesse jigs, they're heavier jigs, rods. I've typically got 2 or 3 colors because most of the time I'm going to a lake blind, and I just like to have my options open. So if I'm fishing Lake Tawakoni as an example, I know to go, and I'll have a black and blue jig tied on, a green pumpkin, and a watermelon type of jig. And then I'll have a black and chartreuse jig tied on, and then I may have this here color, once again, green pumpkin orange, or a Missouri crawl. And again, I'll have all 5 rods tied on with a different color jig, type of jig, etc. Here is a black and blue jig, okay, finesse, real small, and trim the skirt up right there before the little flappers hit, the little pinchers, and they're going to hit that on the way down 98% of the time. Okay, so for those that have never built confidence in fishing a jig, well, what's the bite feel like? So let's talk about that real quick. The bite There's no way to describe it because it's going to vary. To describe a bite on a jig is about as silly as describing a bite on a Texas rig or a wobblehead. You're throwing a weighted object down there in the water, and when you feel a thwink or your lines pick up and it starts swimming away, I mean, that's just it. You load up on your rod, oh, hey, oh, and pop them. That's it. It's the same as a Texas rig, same as a wobblehead, same as a shaky head in my opinion, because again, it's just an object going down into the water, and they either hit it or they don't. And at the end of the day, does it feel mushy? I don't know. Does your Texas rig feel mushy when they eat it? Does it just run off and try to take the rod out of your hand? Absolutely. Both scenarios can occur. And if you're fishing at night, that's when those extra sensitive rods come into play. Because if you're doing it right, you'll feel the bite. Or you'll feel your rod get a little heavy, like something's trying to take off with it. Again, that's just loading up. That's any kind of bottom hopping bait that's out there, is it will load up. And you will have to set the hook. And at the end of the day, to me, the bite on a jig is no different than any other Texas rigged, weighted, bottom dwelling type of bait, which is what I fish 98% of the time. Jigs, Texas rigs, whether it's a brush hog, worm, whatever. I'm mostly using soft plastics, but the jig, again, I want to have 5 of those typically up on my deck of this bug here, with different colors, different sizes, different types of trailers, to see if I can't figure out which one is going to be more active on the day that I'm fishing, on the lake that I'm fishing. So if I'm flipping reeds like down at Lake Fairfield, I know that water is going to be a little cleaner. Whereas if I go to Lake Tawakoni again, I can run into some muddy water, I can run into some green tint kind of water, but clouds is what will determine which color I'm going to have more confidence in, because when it's dark days, I use dark colors no matter the color of the water. When it's bright and sunny days, I use light and whereas transparent colors, watermelons and things like that. So again, that's why I have a whole box full of them, keeping it real simple. It's what gives me confidence. It saves me a lot of time. I don't think there's going to be a big difference between a Mexican heather jig and a watermelon red jig. I'm just going to throw Mexican heather and hope they eat it. So that's how I do my jig fishing. That's how I describe the jig bite. Get you a medium heavy 7'4" Denali rod with any reel that you want, and go at it. But learn how to fish the jig. It is by far the most versatile bait. You can swim it. There's chatterbaits made by it now. Spinnerbait is a jig with a blade on it also, with a wire attached to it. I mean, jig fishing is, in my mind, the #1 way to catch them, but you just got to be versatile. Using color, size, and the time of the year with the weather conditions as your determination on how and where to fish a jig. Is show you on a map here of Lake Fork of where I would yo-yo this jig. So right here, you can see this creek bend coming across, and this is right here by the bridge, okay? 515 bridge going across, and this point coming out, this creek bend right here, you can see it drops off pretty quick. And what I like to do is just drag it this way, north and south. So I'm gonna position my boat facing in toward the creek, and I'm gonna throw it out there deep toward the creek. I'm gonna drag it up and yo-yo it up. If I can't get bit there, I'm gonna come right across to the other side and do the exact same thing, except for I'm gonna start skinny and I'm gonna come deep. And if I can't catch nothing that way, then I'm gonna do a 180 with my boat, come deep and go skinny on the steeper slope. The same thing, I'm gonna start skinny and go deep. And I'm gonna yo-yo that thing during the summertime. Another good place, as an example to do that, is right here. You can see that this is a hump. Everybody knows the Italy boot hump here on Lake Fork, and you can see someone's even got it marked right there. But look at all these deep drop-offs around this hump. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drag it, yo-yo it off of there, yo-yo it off of there, yo-yo it off of there. Pick it up, do it all over again. Another spot I like to do that on is over here on the east arm. And right here, you can see these submerged culverts, but there's this roadbed going across right here. And you can see that this is real skinny, and there's some trees out here, and then it drops off real deep. So I'm going to focus on the areas like that, yo-yo and a jig, during the summertime on Lake Fork. Understood a little bit about how I fish the jig. Hope you understand that it is my favorite bait to be throwing all year long, every day, all day, no matter what time of the year or the season. So if you have any questions, comments, I'd love to hear about them. And I'm always open to share information. So again, thanks for watching the video. Y'all have a blessed day.